Hello, my name is Randy Dobson. I'm an instructor here in the Houston, Texas area, and in this video we'll be covering the hatching command for AutoCAD. One thing to remember, different disciplines in AutoCAD, or different industries I should say, use different hatching for different symbology. So, whatever company you go to work for, I'm sure they'll have a set of standards that they go by. The hatching command is right here, and what it requires is a closed object. Now, that could be, I could draw a line like this and hit C for close. It doesn't have to be one object per se. It helps if it is, but I'm going to go to hatching, and when I do that, you notice this whole screen menu up here is just for hatching. See where we went hatch creation. So this is all dealing with hatching. When you go to hatch, you have two ways of telling it where you want to hatch. You can select a boundary, or you can just pick a point. Okay, if I just picked right in here, let me get something that's a little bit more exciting so we can kind of see it. Let me try. Oh, we're almost there. Okay, so I'm going to just click in here, and it's put a hatching of this symbol in there. As you can see, it's still open, so I'm still in hatch. I'd have to hit close. Now I'm back to AutoCAD. There is my hatching. Okay. Uh, Now hatching, besides picking, if you pick a point or if you go select, you can pick a boundary. And I'm going to just pick this boundary right here and hit enter. And as you can see, it drew that in there. Now, these both did the same thing, but there is an enormous difference between them. I'm going to show you. I'm going to go to hatch, and I've got two objects here. Okay, same object, same text. And I'm going to go pick a point, close, go back to hatch, select, and close it. As you can see, when I pick the point in here, it recognizes that the text is in there. And anywhere that I move that text, that little shadow will follow it. Okay. When I selected the boundary, AutoCAD is ignoring anything that's in here. It doesn't care what's in here, it's going to put hatching across it. So no matter what I do with this text, it's not going to open it up. So that's one thing that you have to consider whichever one you want to use. Go back up here to hatch. Whether you want to select a boundary. Okay, if I select a boundary, watch what happens. It ignored that little circle in the middle. Okay, let me erase that. But if I go back to hatch and pick a point, it recognizes that. Okay, an enormous difference. Same thing over here. If I just wanted to do that half or this half, I could just draw a line dividing it, hit closed, and then get rid of my line if I wanted to, and see it leaves it there. Whereas if we go back to hatching and I select the boundary, it doesn't care how many lines are in there, it ignores it. Okay. Now the nice thing about this one is if you change this text, it will, if I move it outside, it will fill in the gap. But if I copy it, see, it won't, because when I did the hatching, it only recognized this text right here. So if I came along here and, did this, see, it still recognizes this text. So I can move it all around, and it will wipe out or mask the stuff in the back. So big thing to remember. Now let me erase some of this. So that's how you select your boundary. Okay. Now, just like everything else, hatching has a scale. And if you notice when I started, you couldn't see anything because it was set to 1. I had to change it to 60. If I change it back to 1 and I select or pick this point, that is actually, if I zoom in real close, and I'd have to do, probably can't even do it real close, then I would see the lines. I want to come over here and pick here and change it to 60, And see, so the scale, depending on how big, how small your drawing is, you may have to change the scale. The nice thing about it is when you get done, if you don't like something, say you want this to be larger, you just click on it and come up here and change the scale to 80, or you could change it to 100 and then close it, and there you have it. Okay, now so I'm gonna go back to hatching. You've got your scale, the angle. Now this is very, very important. You notice my angle is at 0, but these are at an angle. Well, when you look at your hatch patterns and see, there's all kind of different hatch patterns in here. Okay, you can see some, but whichever way you see this hatch pattern, that is its 0. Okay, so to get this one, you don't put in an angle of 45, you just leave it 0 because that is its 0. This is that 0. Here, that is its 0. If I click that and come over here, and let's change the scale even larger, let's call it 400. Let's try, maybe might have to even go, let's see here. I'm not sure why it's not letting me go larger, but the larger that you make the scale, the larger the object will get. But knowing that, again, you open this up, this is at 0. I use this quite often in my business, concrete. We come over here. I'm not sure of why it's. Let me go select object. Not sure why it is going so. Let's try. Huh. Pretty weird. Not sure why that's happening. I'm gonna try that one more time. Concrete. Select. And let's change the scale to 1,000. There we go. We went too big. 500. Not sure why that is hopping around like that. There we go. I'm starting to see some now. Here we go. Okay. It was just acting funny. So there's a concrete symbol. If you know what concrete is, it's sand with little pieces of rock. Aggregate is what it's called. So that's a symbol. Now, on the older versions of AutoCAD, you won't have this, but newer versions that we work on do. If I change this, the hatching goes with it. Okay, very nice tool. Okay, so if I needed to change that over, and even if I've lost my boundary, say I've erased my boundary and just had that out there, if I click on this, it shows me my grips, and I could grip it to whatever I wanted to. I could come over here and grip it to the end of here and the end of here, and click on this grip to the end of there, and then click on that grip to the end of here, and there, I've placed that there. Now, again, remembering that, of course, the big thing is that you're dealing with, this is at 0, this is at 0. If I took this one right here and changed it to 45, the lines would be straight up and down. If I come over here to 45, change it to 45, and then I pick this right here, and let me try to find something we can see. There we go. As you can see, the lines are upside down. I mean, they're straight up and down. So hit enter to close all that. Now, here is a nice little tool to remember, and I will tell you that whenever I'm hatching, if I've got something like this concrete that I like and this is what I'm going to use, I do not care what my hatching does. I'm going to go to hatching. I'm going to select this object. Okay, and I hit enter. I don't care what all these hatching is. I'm going to make it look like this. If you've watched the video on match properties, watch this. I'm going to go match properties. Here is my source. Hit enter. I'm done. So instead of sitting there trying to set the exact whatever, if you've got a hatching pattern that you want to use and it's already on your drawing, hatch whatever you want, but then just come back and use the match properties. That is an enormous time saver. Another thing that I want to point out to you is when you are hatching, hatch individual objects, and this is why. You might go, okay, I'm going to pick this, 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 and this. You hit enter. You think, oh wow, see how fast that was? I'm great. Okay. Well, what happens if they want to erase this box? Well, you can't erase that hatching because then you have to do all of this. Okay. I mean, you can sit there and try to play with it to mess it up to where it goes away, but you really can't. Something's going to remain. So, my point is that when you are hatching a bunch of similar objects, what I want you to do is go pick a point, hit enter to close it, hit enter to start it, click, hit enter to end it, hit enter to start it, click, hit enter to end it, hit enter to start it, hit enter to end it, hit enter to start it. I want to go ahead and put these both together. So now, if I want to erase this one, or erase this one, or erase this one, it doesn't affect the other ones. Nothing is more aggravating than going to erase something, you click on it, and all this other hatching erases. So you want your symbolism to be an island. You want it to be isolated, so that way, if you do need to erase it, or even change it. Let's just say that I'm going to draw another P line here. Let's say that I do a hatching and we go back to that concrete, and we'll pick in here. We'll make it 1 and say that, you know, I want this one to be like that one. I can go here to here. But if I did that where these were all hats, they would all change to this. It's really important that you do it that way. I can tell you that stands out with me because I actually had to do this yesterday on a drawing at my office. We had to erase out a piece of a sidewalk, and I ended up having to rehatch everything because the person that did it clicked all these objects and made it one big hatch. So what should have taken me 10 seconds to do took me 4 or 5 minutes because I had to come back and redo my boundaries and then select them and get everything set correctly. So again, when you start the hatch, you've got this hatch menu up here. Okay, everything we're going to be doing is associative. That's what means this right here. When I click on it, it means the hatching is associated to its boundary. And here is your angle. If you want to change an angle of something, that's fine. Here's your scale. Remembering you make it larger or smaller to depending on what your how big your view is. And then here are all your hatch patterns. You know, you've got here's steel, zigzag. Up here I saw here's gravel, honeycomb. We typically use this right here, which is earth, for our ground. And of course, you've got concrete and sand. So, depending on where you work and what kind of industry you're in, will decide the hatching. But it's a really nice tool. It can be put on its own layer. If you've watched the layer commands, I could say that I want to make a layer called hatch and make it yellow. That way, if I want to take my hatching and put it all on yellow, on my hatching, there it is. If the boss says, hey, I don't want to see the hatching in the drawing, I can just go freeze and my hatching is frozen. Again, it's still there. I just have it where I can't see it for this plot that I'm going to be doing. So that's the hatch command. Again, as always, if you have questions, please email me and I will try to help you out with it. That's either a student or anyone. And that concludes my video on hatching. Thank you.